From scouring Ryanair for flights to Paris, Germany and Italy to organising travel down to Brighton. Yes, the reality has sunk back in from what has been an absolutely incredible couple of days, getting excited for and then witnessing Newcastle's Champions League draw. But the real stuff starts again. We need to keep focused, stay focused on this Premier League campaign, and it's Brighton Hove Albion down on the seaside, away from home. Very difficult match, but very important we tune back in to what has been an up and down start of the season. The match previews coming up, Newcastle fans, so do us a favour, make sure you stick around. Oh, I've been living off this stuff the last couple of days. That's right, I've been living off your baguettes, and I've even been living off these Frankfurters. Not the favourite of mine, but hey, when in Rome, or when in Milan, when in Germany, when in Paris, should I say, it's the new diet. Breakfast, lunch and tea is Peroni to drink, plain baguettes and Frankfurter sausages. Newcastle fans, welcome back to Black and White Banter. I hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic week. It didn't start very well. In fact, it started very toxic. Definitely, if you've got social media, you'll probably agree with me on that one. After that stab in the neck from the Scousers, which team name I will not mention, but things got incredibly better as we were paired with some of the giants in world football in the Champions League, because Newcastle United are now mingling with the best. But as I said at the start of this video, the real stuff begins. The bread and butter, if you like. The bread and baguette. Butter and baguette. Just to make it a little bit more European themed. But before we get into the Brighton match preview, do us a favour, whack that little likey loo. Do that now. I'm going to finish this whilst you just give you a second to whack the like. Oh, lovely stuff. Do that for us. And if you like my opinion by the end of this video, whack that subscribe. I am going down to Brighton Hove Albion, down to the seaside, down to mix it with the Seagulls. I'm not going to be going down on the party bus for this one, which is already feeling like a bit of a knife in the leg. I'm going to be driving down with a very special guest. So anyone who's watched my videos for a while and watched my USA pre-season tour videos will certainly recognise the face who will be featuring on the match vlog. So make sure you whack that subscribe if you want to see what goes on what is probably about 14 hours of driving. So it's going to be a long old day, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a weekend. What else are you going to do? My weekends basically consist of see who Newcastle are playing, and that's where I'm going. So whack that subscribe if you want to see that. So it's Brighton in the... I was going to say it's Brighton in the Cup. I'm still in Champions League Cup mode. It's Brighton in the league. Very difficult match, this one. Very, very difficult. Brighton are raising eyebrows across the whole of Europe, I think it's fair to say. De Zerbi was a manager when he came into their football club. He was spoken very highly of by Guardiola, by Arteta, from what he did at Sassuolo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Very interesting style of football, and this poses a very difficult match. But it's not impossible, and I think we should be going into this room with confidence. Lots of Newcastle fans will say otherwise because of what happened against Liverpool, but I do not buy into that at all. Some of you might have watched my rant video earlier in the week on some of the opinions I've seen. It doesn't wash with me. If I break down Newcastle's 3 performances this season, yes, we've seen mixed things with regards to talking points and areas of our game from all 3 matches, but Aston Villa, a team we were supposed to fear, we battered them. Manchester City, we went toe-to-toe with them for large spells. We were just beaten by the better team, which you'd expect at the Etihad, but we didn't half defend well, disciplined, and if we were better with the ball, that could have gone a bit better. And then Liverpool, Eddie Howe was just tactically outdone in the last 15 minutes of the match in a game that shouldn't have come down to a tactical battle because we should have been out of sight. Liverpool was celebrating that full-time whistle like they'd won the Champions League. That's how much of a big result it was for them, because in that first half, we had them in that Eddie Howe chokehold that we do to so many teams. So I've got so many positives to come from our first 3 matches, and that's the key term here, Newcastle fans. First 3 matches. We went 7 games last season at the start without a win after winning our opening game, and we still finished 4th. Chill the hell out, whatever happens at Brighton, which is currently one of the hardest places to go. Brighton had started their season absolutely flying, but got what you could argue was a bit of a shock result against West Ham. I think West Ham are now proven that it's maybe not as much of a shock result because they've actually started the season solid. If they win at Luton on Friday night, they go top of the league. They signed in some really good players. So a week ago, that might have looked a shock result. Now, in hindsight, I don't think West Ham beating a team of Brighton's level is that much of a shock because West Ham look a really, really decent outfit at the moment in this early start stages of the season. So we can go there and win. Now, how do we go against playing this Brighton team? It's an interesting one. So, De Zerbi's famous style of football, and I talked about this when we beat them 4-1 at St James's Park back in May, April, May, when we had 2 home games back-to-back for that Champions League qualification that we got in our grasp by winning at St James's. It's an interesting one. So, De Zerbi likes to play his style of football, the possession team. They are one of the biggest and best possession sides in the Premier League. Probably only second to Manchester City. Obviously, the stats this season are very swayed because there's only 3 matches in. But last season, they were up there. They have 70% of the ball, 75% of the ball. And what De Zerbi likes to do, if you back off and let them play it, they will keep the ball for the whole match and wait for little windows of space and try and take advantage of that. What he also likes teams he is playing to do is to press them. They then take advantage of whatever man might be spare that isn't being marked from that player moving forward and pressing, and that's what they live off. So what you'll find with Brighton, as they tried to do at St James's Park back end of last season, they will play it around the back quite a lot. Dunk last season had the highest touches out of any other defender in the league when we played them. That tells you everything you want to know. They will play it there because they want teams to press them, and then they feed the ball between the lines, they progress the ball from there and carry it, and they take advantage of spaces. Why we beat them in April, which I thought was fascinating, was because we were very, very disciplined in our press. And I think Eddie Howe will try and set up exactly the same. We can't sit back because Brighton will have all of the ball, and it's not Eddie Howe's way to sit back. I don't think we would ever do that in this match, and I think that would be silly. But to press them, it has to be done in the correct way. So Eddie Howe's style of play that he loves, if it's done as disciplined as it was in April, we will beat them. And I talked about this when we played Aston Villa, because when we played Aston Villa and got beat in Villa Park 3-0 last season, our man marking and our discipline in midfield was terrible. Villa picked up all sorts of little pockets of spaces. So if we can do things correctly, we can beat them. Because I think on paper, and this might be a controversial statement, I think on paper we have better individual big shot players. Brighton play some lovely football. As a team, they're brilliant. They've got like Toshima on the left-hand side. He looks absolutely brilliant. They've got a couple of injuries. I know they've just lost Caicedo. Solly Marsh has started the season really well. But when you look at our team, your Isaacs, your Tonali's, your Bruno's when he's firing on all cylinders. You know, you've got Kieran Trippier at right back, can put a ball in. You've got Callum Wilson on the bench. Barnes probably is on the bench. Anthony Gordon, if he can play. I do still think we have so many areas where we can hurt them. We just have to be disciplined in what we do. Individual players, as I've just kind of mentioned from Brighton, that I'm fearing. What am I fearing from their side? Well, certainly Solly March. He started the season really, really well for them. He looks pretty tasty, and he's going to be trying to make things happen. And all I worry about with some of their wider players is it's becoming quite a common concern now. Is Dan Burn. Players cutting in on Dan Burn. I think Dan Burn actually hugging the touchline's not that bad. If a player wants to run toe-to-toe with him down the line, I know he doesn't have pace, but his larger body makes up for that. His experience in the tackle makes up for it. But on the topic of Dan Burn, with regards to team selections, I'm going to assume as I make this video off Eddie Howe's press conference that Sven Botman can't play. That makes me a lot less confident for this game. We have not been Botmanless brunch. Hey, I'm here all week. We haven't been without him for a while, and I really, that concerns me massively. Don't get me wrong, Dan Burney's going back to his old club. You've always got a point to prove when you go back to your old team. Familiar faces you want to put on a show. So I wouldn't be looking to bring in Lascelles. We know what sort of a week Lascelles has had with this bloody fight in the street. No, I didn't make a video on that. Why the fuck would I make a video on a little bit of CCTV footage? That's not what this channel's about. But he's had a bit of an up and down week, but I still wouldn't bring him in. What I would do if Botman is injured for this one, I would move Dan Burn into centre-back. So you've got a left-footed centre-back with a right-footed centre-back in Fabian Schär. And I would play, might be controversial again, I would play Hall. I would. Hall is not the sort of young, I know he's young, but he's not the sort of youth player that is coming in to go into our academy. We know that. He's played plenty of football for Chelsea last season in high-profile matches. We know he can do it. We know he's got talent. He likes to get forward. It's about time we experimented with an attacking left-back. And I think that could be a great opportunity if we're going to press Brighton, which I really hope we are, to win that tactical battle I was just talking about. Having a press on the left-hand side, Gordon and an attacking left-back would be wonderful. Livramento's not as much of an option for me out there. I think he's more naturally a right-back. I don't see Eddie Howe using Livramento at left-back unless really needed. Matt Targett, yes, he's reliable. I thought he looked a little bit out of sorts when he came on against Liverpool last week, but he's not going to offer much going forward. Hall's got a lovely left foot, and he's comfortable on his right. Let's give him a go, and let's move Dan Burn into centre-back. That is assuming that Botman is picking up an injury. We know Eddie Howe is Mr. Pinocchio in his press conferences. He could be fully known that Botman is fine and just thrown the Brighton team off the scent a little bit by saying it looks like he's unlikely to play. We don't know. It's happened many times before with Howard transfers where he tells porky pies. Other injuries, Joe Linton has apparently not trained all week. Now, going into this match, I don't think Joe Linton has been firing on all cylinders. I thought against Manchester City he was poor before he went off. I thought against Liverpool he was okay. But if we had not taken a fully fit Joe Linton into this match, for me, don't play him. And I love him. He's one of the first on the team sheet for me. He's one of my favourite Newcastle players. But if he's not fully fit for a Brighton team who will want all of the ball as much as they can, they will be in our faces. Don't play the guy. And if he isn't, so obviously if he is fit, he plays. Of course he does. You would assume it's the same midfield three. If he isn't fit, I would probably go for this one. I would go with Sean Longstaff to start, who I still think his work rate is being missed a little bit in our midfield, because Bruno and Tonali are still figuring out who sits, who goes in that central area, and I think it's leaving us a little bit short in and around the box when we defend them. But this would just allow Bruno and Tonali to maybe figure out from an attacking point of view where they are with things, and almost an experiment. But you've got Elliot Anderson who could come off if that experiment doesn't work. So Elliot Anderson for me is chomping at the bit. He's just got his Scotland call up. I'm delighted for the kid. He could come on and play in there. If Longstaff, Bruno and Tonali maybe looks, I don't want to say a bit too defensive, because we know Bruno's a creative player. We know Tonali covers every blade of grass and has already proven he likes to get forward. But Longstaff, I would be interested to see in that three if he could be some glue that would allow them to really express themselves and build on that partnership in a more of an attacking area. The right-hand side, Almiron's causing debate, as I think Almiron has caused since he's been at Newcastle, pretty much. I debate him every week as someone who doesn't claim to be a huge fan. For this game, I'm going to keep saying what I've said for a while. I would go with Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy deserves some minutes if he's fit, if he's raring to go, if his baby's settled down. He's finished the season last season very strong. He could fit into that high press of their defence, which I just talked about very well, because his energy levels, his defensive work is good, and he likes to get a shot off. He likes to whip a ball in. If that doesn't work and he's having a poor half, you've got Barnes, you've got Almiron, you've got options to come on. You've got Elliot Anderson. He's quite adaptable to play both sides. So that would be my team. Assuming there's a couple of injuries, I would go with Longstaff and I would go with Murphy in my midfield, and I would go with Dan Burn at centre-back. How am I feeling going into this one? Well, I certainly think we can hurt them in a lot of areas. I talked about our press being disciplined. I think this could be the game for Alexander Isak. I really do. I just think he's been quiet the last few, but it's all about what link-up play he gets, and that's why I think Longstaff could be important for us if he played. Because if Bruno and Tonali can get a little bit further up the field, and then you've got Hall who can slot in to midfield to allow Longstaff to push up a little bit, because Hall is a midfielder. I've talked about that on another video. He allows Eddie Howe another tactical little string to his bow, if you like. Isak is relying on a little bit more link-up. He's not a hold-up kind of striker. That's where you play Callum Wilson. So maybe Callum Wilson is more suited to this match. I understand that argument. But let's just hope that Isak can fire on a couple more cylinders this week. Anthony Gordon, I'm expecting a big impact, because if he just Eddie Howe just has to say him in the dressing room, continue where you left off, son, and I will not sub you this time. Let's not talk about that on this video. Yeah, Anthony Gordon, he will be my standout. I'm sure they'll Deserby will be looking at him, and the Brighton defence and midfield will be looking at him. Am I confident going into this one? Yes and no. I've seen enough from this Newcastle team, despite what every other fan on social media seems to think, to know that we are still going to have a very good season, and we are going to start to really click as a team and stay pretty sound at the back defensively. But we are going to a very tough match in Brighton, and they will be hurting from that West Ham defeat. So I'm going to go for a draw on this one. If you were to offer me a draw now, I would take it. I'm going to go for a score draw. I'll go for 1-1. I love to back us to win, but I'm not going to back us to win every week, and this is a very, very tough match. Both teams off the back of defeats that will have frustrated both of them. Yeah, I would take a point all day long. Can't wait to get down there though, Newcastle fans. So much to be smiling from ear to ear about. We're waiting for them fixtures to get confirmed. Who have we got first? Who's away first? Who's home first? As soon as that comes in, I will be on Ryanair like a fly on shit. The match vlog will be coming, probably tomorrow night as I travel on that long journey back from Brighton. Newcastle fans, if you've liked this video, give us a little like. Let me know your team choices in the comments. Let me know your predictions for this one. Can we go down to the sea, down to the coast, grab some fish and chips, but also grab the 3 points? I want to see some confidence in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go to bed now and get me sarnies buttered. Get the butter on the ham and peas pudding sarnies for the morning, and I'll see you on that match vlog. Away the lads!